yes, Gio, there were 2 explosions when it came to the Erling, Iowa gas station explosion. I don't understand his video or the post. The whole reason why the official report says that the place filled with fumes and 1 explosion leveled the place. The reason why the official report doesn't match what actually happened, which was what was reported that day. It's funny because the video that you have where it says there were 2 explosions, that saying underneath it, that where they were quoting someone, that was also my quote. You know, that was also my quote. And there were 2 explosions. And the reason why the official document is lying and says there was only 1 explosion is because the first explosion was a bomb. It was a bomb. Where it went off, it was a bomb. The only reason why the gas station blew up 9.5 minutes later is because the bomb that they put in that gas station obviously caused a fire. And so there was fire. So the gas tanks exploded 9.5 minutes later because the gas station was on fire. It was a bomb. That's the reason why. And who else but the government can cover fucking something up like that? Who can cover that up? It just, Doug Mesner was not behind covering it up. Neil Gross, Shelby County, Iowa Sheriff, was not behind covering this up. There had to have been a whole group of people involved, because this official report is what they sent to insurance companies to get insurance companies to pay out. But it's easy to show that the official report doesn't match the facts of what happened that day, because KETV was out there and actually showed the shit. KETV reported that there were 2 explosions. And the reason why they put a bomb in that gas station is because they had just murdered Isaac Cappy 11 months before. And they were trying to get rid of me. That gas station explosion, they were hoping that the debris would hit my house and level my house. But it didn't. With that said, I've been thinking a lot about that lately, and this whole thing about Sherilyn being connected to Famalam. And of course, I've just been thinking about a lot of things. First of all, it explains why Sherilyn was on this crusade to get me to stop talking about child trafficking. Completely stop about talk and just focus on the word. There was a reason why. And it didn't have anything to do with her faith. You know, she wanted me to stop talking about child trafficking. But, so do I think that she was involved with this Famalam thing? Yes. Yes. And who's involved with this Famalam thing but the Dead Isaac Cappy Club? So that got me thinking about the Dead Isaac Cappy Club. And I started thinking about months and months ago when I actually, for the first time in years, and I haven't done it since, went on Nathan Stoltman's Lift the Veil program on YouTube. I think it was on YouTube. It was a link I got sent. And so I ended up, now they're fucking with my numbers. It goes from 2 to 32 in a matter of a second. There's not 32 people in here. The numbers are so skewed, I don't know why they keep paying for bots on my channel, but they do. Anyway, so I started thinking about this Famalam thing, because that's what Isaac Cappy was all involved with, this Famalam thing. He designed this program to fight child trafficking, and in the end he was upset because the people who got involved with it with him and the people who were around him started using it for child trafficking instead of against it. I believe that that's why when Isaac Cappy spoke about himself as Judas in that last Periscope video, I think that's what he was talking about. is this whole Famalam program. But I started thinking about this thing with Nathan Stoltman when I went on his show, because someone had texted me, like it was a little after midnight. But I saw the text because I was up letting the dogs go to the bathroom. And now it's down to 8. Funny how these numbers just go up and down all over the place. Anyway, so I thought it was over with. So I clicked on it to find out that Nathan Stoltman had this program going on. But Nathan Stoltman was out getting food or something. He wasn't there the whole time I was there. He wasn't involved. He was texting, but I think he was texting because he had it on his phone. Because he was out, I think he was getting chicken wings or something. So it was all Corey Daniel. And Corey Daniel and I got into an argument. I was in chat. He was on video. The key thing about this that I started thinking about is that at one point during this whole exchange, Corey Daniel calls his wife onto camera. She calls herself the Sicilian Witch. She is supposedly the last person Isaac Cappy ever spoke to before Isaac ended up dead. And so, and at the time, supposedly, Corey Daniel didn't have a fucking clue who Isaac Cappy was. That's why this whole, he knew exactly the minute that he drove under an overpass, but he said there was no police presence, and he didn't even know who Isaac Cappy was. So why would he remember that exact moment? And then later on, I guess, now he's saying that he wants to be purported as a hero because he and Daniel Dowd were on the bridge. Regardless of all of that. He gets his wife on this Nathan Stoltman thing, and they start talking about how they all, as a group, after Isaac died, called the FBI on my behalf. He said that night in that program. He said that night. They called the Corey Daniel, who didn't know who Isaac was, and I didn't know who any of these people were. I didn't know who Corey Daniel, aka Phoenix Enigma, didn't know who he was. Didn't know who Tara Joyce was. Didn't know who Geo Farnsworth was. Didn't know who Daniel Dowd was. Didn't know who DeFango was. Didn't know who Thomas Schoenberger was. Obviously, I knew Gabe Hoffman. Obviously, I knew Lucian Greaves, founder of the Satanic Temple. But this is all involved with child trafficking. This is all, Isaac was trying to get his role in the whole child trafficking thing exposed, and he and I had joined forces for a while. And so he's dead. 11 months later, this gas station goes off. But what occurred to me is that even though I didn't have a fucking clue who any of these people were, by Corey Daniel's own admission and his wife's own admission, they all knew exactly who I was. They knew exactly who I was and knew for the 4 years who I was. And it's not like I was that hard. It's not like they couldn't get a hold of me. And so, but they knew who I was, who I am. They knew who I am. Right at the time, Isaac Cappy, by their own admission. And I will say that I didn't have a clue who any of these fucking people were until a little over a couple years ago when I finally let people start commenting on my videos. And I started talking about Isaac Cappy. And when I did that, they descended upon me all at once. Every fucking one of them. Corey Daniels, Daniel Dowd, Geo Farnsworth, Tara Joyce, all descended upon me, all reached out. Thomas Schoenberger, all reached out because of what was going on with Isaac Cappy. It was all this child trafficking bullshit. But they knew who I was, And so when it comes down to it, that's where I'm focused on. I don't think that they have any worry about being investigated, because this group doesn't do that. They take out their own. They'll throw each other under the bus. But personally, myself, I don't even think there's time. I don't think there's time. But I think that they're all going to eat their own. And I think they're all more than aware of what's going on. And on all levels. Isn't it interesting this last week that Donald Trump started talking about hell, saying he was a little man on the totem pole. He's afraid he's going to go to hell. By his own admission, by his own words. And he's right. His family owes a blood debt. Just like my family owes a blood debt. Just like there's so many other families that owe a blood debt to the dark. Their families, all of them, were able to do whatever the fucking evil shit they wanted to do and never pay a day's price. Not a one of them has ever paid a day's price. And that's not going to end. These days continue. That will continue. What they were promised is exactly what they're going to get. But something tells me that heaven is about ready to end these days. For most of us. You know, I think the death is coming. I think that the planet is not going to take all these solar flares and CMEs and all this gamma radiation and heat that the sun is throwing at us without blasting off a super volcano or two to try and protect itself. That's just elementary science. We used to learn that in elementary school. But all of this is about child trafficking. It's all about child trafficking. Every single bit of it. And so it's interesting how it's working. It is interesting on how it's all working. Things are chaotic. And the fun part about it is that I personally think that the swelling, my mom, they can say whatever shit they want to do. But one of the things that I have in my past is that I actually took care of my mom for the last 5.5 years of her life. So then running around telling everybody I'm like the psychopath. Obviously, I'm not the psychopath that took care. I was my mother's primary caregiver for the last 5.5 years of her life. However, she was on dialysis. And why was she on dialysis? Because she had congestive heart failure. When she had problems, her body would swell. She'd get a lot of water retention. Because her kidneys were failing, that's what was causing the congestive heart failure. I think that's what Trump is dealing with right now. I think that's the reason why his ankles are so big. That's the reason why his hand gets swollen. All of that, that's all part of it. It's all part of congestive heart failure. And I say this because it will be interesting to see what happens when that dude keels over. He's old, he's overweight, he eats like shit, and they can lie about his health all they want. But how has that helped him? You know? But regardless, when they lose him, they're not going to have not one of them has the abilities, the magic Donald Trump has. Donald Trump has magic that nobody else has. Once he's gone, there'll be no harnessing what Donald Trump has. And people are going to start suffering. The very people that they have made rabid for the last 10, 15 years. Angry, hateful. We're at the end. That's the reason why there's a celebration of evil going on. You know? It's easy for the dark. When you celebrate the evil, it just compels people to just do all kinds of fucked up shit. All kinds of fucked up shit. Compels them to do it. And we're at the end being judged. Babe, I just wanted to point out that I agree with one thing. With Geo, there were 2 explosions at that gas station. That's the whole point. There were 2 gas explosions. And that first explosion was a bomb. That's the only fucking thing that could explain it. And when you consider the fact that there were men across the street from that gas station this Saturday night at 3 o'clock in the morning. So really it was Sunday morning at 3 o'clock in the morning. when they were across the street from that gas station. They were so loud, they woke up my neighbors. And so there were people, and we were in COVID lockdown for months. Nothing had been open forever, ever. And so they were across, 3 o'clock Sunday morning, and that gas station blows up Monday morning. 2 explosions. Not one, 2. The official report says it filled with fumes that just came from the ground. If you read the post, I posted what Neil Gross sent me, the official report for that gas station. And there's no way it happened that way. And there's only... Not everyone could make that go away like they did. Not everyone could make that go away. And so when it comes down to it, and I believe that they are looking into Sherilyn, because Sherilyn connects the whole Family group to me, because she reached out just like Glenna did. And so I'm sure that they are aware of what's going on. And so that gas station, they blew up because they were trying to silence me. And the fun thing about that gas station is, like I've said before, I didn't even hear the first explosion because I had just gotten naked and into the shower and I just put my head underneath the water. And so, they're all in here now because they're all upset. The issue with this group is that they're all trying to hide their child trafficking operation. This is all Mike Aquino's baby. This is what he designed. He may be dead. They're all saying that he committed suicide. He may be dead, but his associates that helped him build this operation are not dead. They're not dead at all. They're very much alive. And it all needs to be investigated. And so what Isaac Cappy was involved with needs to be investigated. What Doug Mesner is involved with, Doug Mesner's connection to Amber Volatin and the whole situation with Lori King's death needs to be investigated. It is way too coincidental for it to be an accident. There was more about it. I'm talking about a child trafficking group that has been silencing survivors for quite some time now. Doug Mesner, Lucian Greaves, founder of the Satanic Temple. I'm not making it all up, but who you're listening to is Geo Farnsworth. I bet that's Geo Farnsworth. And if I get rid of him, he'll just get another account. He's the one who's arguing, there was 2 explosions, not 1. I know, dumbass. I know. I'm not obsessed with Doug. Doug is involved with killing survivors and is involved with child trafficking. He needs to be investigated. He needs to be exposed. No one's in love with Doug. No one is in love with Doug. In all the years that I've had to deal with that dumbass, let me tell you, he hasn't endured himself as love. I'm not in love with them. See, I'm just not going to argue. I'll take a screenshot. That's the reason why I do not argue with these people, because it goes around in circles. They make accusations. You have to say, no, I did. That's not true, because it's obviously not true. It just keeps going on. It's like I've said, it's like dealing. I'm like in a mental institution full of, okay, I fucked up on that one. Oh well. When the neighborhood whispering. What neighborhood whispering? Which house did I live in when the neighborhood whispering? Well, if I lived in a house and they lived in a house and there was whispering going on, it was going on in their house, I would take it. Again, it's all about child trafficking. What I was talking about was there was no whispering. They weren't whispering. The people woke up my neighbors across the street from the gas station. The neighbors lived right in between me and the house that my sister had just bought. I was in Erling. When the gas station exploded, it was in Erling. And they weren't whispering. They were loud enough to wake up my neighbors. It was my neighbors who told me, and my sister lived directly across the street from the gas station. That was in Erling. And that was a Saturday that it happened. Saturday night. It was 3 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday night. So it actually was, but there was everything, COVID was locked down. Everything was COVID locked down. And the policeman that they had after me. And I was getting threats by Doug Mesner and his whole group at the exact same time. At the exact same time. It's not like it's one thing or the other. And the cop that they had going after me about the dogs that was going on with Doug, if it was just one thing, Geo, who's another account, who has Doug Mesner's face, Tara Joyce isn't behind anything. She's just part of them. She's just part of them. She's a little gatekeeper wannabe, Michael Aquino and his associates. Underneath Michael Aquino, Gabe Hoffman. Underneath Gabe Hoffman, Thomas Schoenberger. Thomas Schoenberger, then it goes Doug Mesner, Lucian Greaves, founder of the Satanic Temple, who's using the Satanic Temple after-school daycare bullshit to actually help target kids. And then you had the Dead Isaac Cappy Club, Sewer Town, DeFango, Corey Daniels, Sicilian Witch Wife, Daniel Dowd, Tara Joyce, Geo Farnsworth, all involved with Isaac Cappy. And Isaac Cappy was all trying to expose this child trafficking. And so they're all involved. Oh, Tara Joyce is definitely involved. Tara Joyce was definitely involved. I think Gabe Hoffman was working hand in hand with Michael Aquino. That's what I believe. That's what I believe. And so that's what I believe. Working hand in hand. Oh my God, I was not there with Isaac Cappy. I was there with the gas station. I was in the shower. And I did get interviewed by KETV that night. That day, that afternoon. Just like Shelby County, Iowa Sheriff Neil Gross. Just like Dan, the owner, who says on KETV how he got out of the gas station, then went back in the gas station, got his brother-in-law, and got them both out. But what's happening is that Daniel Dowd and Sewer Town and Doug Mesner and the Geo Farnsworth and all of that, all of these people are in here and trying to actually make it seem they're all anonymous with fake ass names and fake ass things, and they think that their insults and their taunts are actually making a difference, that it changes the facts of the matter. When it comes to the facts of the matter of Daniel Dowd and Geo Farnsworth, they bragged on YouTube about coming into my town and murdering my friend. Flat out. That's what my issue is with them. That's what my issue is with them. And so, it's just being my own moderator again. I'm just not used to this anymore. So I'm not worried about anything, Gio. The whole thing about it is that you have a million different accounts. And I'm not going to let you distract from the message, which means this all needs to be investigated. It all needs to be investigated. Everything needs to be investigated. And whether or not you're Geo, you're just part of them. You're part of them arguing their shit. And you bring up stupid shit that doesn't have any basis of anything in fact. And because I won't argue with you and I get irritated and actually block you, then you bitch and cry. But it all needs to be looked at. I'm not lying. I'm not lying at all. But see, this is what we're going to deal with. This is what we're going to deal with. You're going to insult me. I'm going to deal with your insults. And it just goes around and around. And then I'm actually going to put you on a timeout, or I'll just hide you. And what will happen is this same person will come back in with a completely different name and just start up all over again. That's the bullshit that goes on. When it comes down to it, the child trafficking that Isaac Cappy was trying to expose needs to be investigated. I was working with him. They murdered him and then 11 months later tried to kill me in that gas station explosion. The official report does in no way even resembles what happened that day that KETV reported on the news that day. They conflict with each other. Both can't be true. One or the other. And the shit that was reported that day doesn't match the official report. And the official report, why they're hiding that first explosion, is because it was a bomb. They put a bomb in that goddamn gas station. You know, had there been people partying on a Saturday night, even during COVID lockdown, no one would have thought anything about it. But the fact that there were people there, it was the only time it fucking happened, and the gas station blew up. That happened Saturday night at 3 o'clock in the morning, and the gas station blows up on Monday, you know? And so, when it comes down to it, there's too many coincidences, you know? There's just too much to just dismiss away. And the same thing about it is that Donovan was a weak-ass man. He was a weak-ass man. Deputy Donovan, who worked under Shelby County, Iowa Sheriff Neil Gross. The day that I went to court over the dogs, I had called Neil Gross so that he could come in because Neil Gross had met my dogs. He knew that they weren't vicious. He knew that they were nice. He told me I would have had to have subpoenaed him. He couldn't come in. But 45 minutes before we go into court, he shows up and pulls his deputy, Donovan, who's there for court, into another room. And then when court goes on, all Donovan says is that my dogs bark. That's all he would say. He didn't say anything, but I know that he was there to say so much more. Well, I think the issue is that I think that Neil looked at what was going on. The whole thing got thrown out of court because because Donovan didn't file the shit right. And I think Neil knew that he didn't file the shit right. I always thought that Neil was there on my behalf. And now I realize it wasn't because Neil was there on my behalf. I trusted Neil Gross. That's the reason why I stayed in the area. When I left Harlan, when I left Erlin and came to Harlan, I still trusted Neil Gross. I had not come to the conclusion that he'd been working with them the whole entire time, because I was not the sharpest tool in the shed. Let's just put it that way. You know, but then I had no idea of the corruption that was going on out here either. I had nothing, you know. I trusted Neil. I shouldn't have. Now I don't. You know, if you want to donate, my PayPal and my Venmo are just my name, D. Shurter. First initial, last name. Anybody who wants a book, I published this in 2012. Got nominated for Book of the Year. When I published it, it's all about my family's involvement in child trafficking. That's it, $30 if you're in the United States. Tell me who I'm sending it to, and telling it where I'm sending it to, and who I'm inscribing it to. And that's $30. I have a blog, davidshurter.com. For those of you who are interested, go to my blog. You can go down to the search engine down below on the right side and type in names, and stuff will pull up. You can type in Erling, Iowa gas station explosion. EARLING. But even if I had moved out of the area, they followed me from Washington State to Erling, Iowa. The very next day after I moved in about that, I got nominated, dude. I didn't get an award. I got nominated. See, this is what I'm saying. This is the same dumbass. Again, probably connected to Doug Messner. That's what I'm saying. Completely connected to Doug Messner. Who's involved with all of this? Doug Messner was involved with Lori King. The murder of Lori King. Now, she didn't commit suicide. Amber Volatin. Doug Messner, of course. Doug Messner was sending me emails. The whole reason why I left Washington State, it was Doug Messner and his little group, the Satanic Temple, all of their fucking little minions. When I got to Erling, the very next day after I moved in, I logged in, and they knew exactly where I was. They did exactly what they do now. Doxed me in emails saying that they were waiting for me before I even got to Erling. And it started. I lived in Erling for 3 years before the fucking gas station explosion. It was hell. Erling was the worst place I've ever lived in my life. It was awful. It was awful. It was a free-for-all, worse than it is now. And it's pretty bad now. But it was all Doug Messner from the very beginning. And Neil Gross knew that because he was getting all the emails, because when I got to Shelby County, I started sending all the shit to my sheriff. Yeah, they're posted. I posted everything on my blog. davidshurter.com. All the shit throughout all the years is posted. Is posted. There had been videos made, but now that account is down. I don't have a vendor. I did just sign up for a Patreon account. I think I called myself David Shurter. And my name is David Shurter. And I use that on the Patreon thing, but I don't know anything about it, so I haven't done anything really with it other than set it up. Venmo, it's just D Shurter. I don't have a vendor, it's just D Shurter. Which they're on top of me with my finances. Completely. Always. That's the reason why I go through PayPal and Venmo, because it goes to my bank and I can keep a track of everything that's going on. That way I can report everything that goes on. Because they're on top of me and have been for years. Not only was I battling Doug Messner in real life, because I moved to Algona not realizing that he lived in Tacoma, which was only 23 miles away. So I had no idea that I was living, hold on. Screen door open and the flies are getting in. But I had no idea that he was in Tacoma. And it was all because of this child trafficking bullshit. All of it was all because of the child trafficking bullshit. His whole MO is to shut survivors up. People who have been horribly abused and trafficked as kids. He sends his group into survivor groups like Neil Brick's Smart Conference in Connecticut. Sends people in there where they film, and all of that. And was all inundated with the Ivory Garden Trauma Conference in Washington, The whole death of Lori King needs to be looked at. Flat out. It needs to be looked at. Amber Volatin shows up at Lori King's house unannounced. Nobody's expecting her. She gets Lori and her King, drives 2.5 hours back to her house. And that weekend that Amber Volatin just shows up her house and gets her is also the same weekend that's going on with the conference, the second annual Ivory Garden Conference in Seattle. And then that same Sunday that they're ending up the conference, Lori King decides to commit suicide at Amber Volatin's house, who picked her up unannounced. You know, just showed up and brought her to her house. Yeah, because that makes a lot of sense. The same fucking weekend. And when it comes down to it, Seattle or Ivory Garden, that trauma group, Lori King was a founder of that trauma group. She was one of 3. 2 of them are dead now. The first one was dead before I ever got involved. Then Lori King was there. She ends up dead. Now it's just Pat Goodwin. You know? If I was a survivor, I would think twice, 3 times, 4 times before engaging with that. Because it's not safe. Because I personally believe that Pat Goodwin, who is the whole reason why I went to Algona, Washington, knew that Doug Mesner was in Tacoma 23 miles away. Never bothered to tell me. Never bothered to tell me. In fact, just the opposite. She was Doug Mesner's controlled opposition. You know? And so, and all of this is about child trafficking. All of it is about child trafficking. They murdered Isaac Cappy because of that Famalam program. That Famalam program. Now that I've been informed that Sherilyn was involved with that Famalam program, like I told her, enjoy the motherfucking dark. Enjoy the dark. And their bullshit lies ain't gonna fucking work anymore. You know? They may not pay a day's price in this day. They may never be arrested and taken to court and go to jail. They may never pay a day's price. But they better hope they can fucking live forever. Because the moment after they take their last breath, that's all changed. And what's waiting for them is accountability and retribution. You know, I self-published years ago. And the company wasn't even mine that I self-published, and it's not under that anymore either. That company doesn't even exist. Didn't. It only existed for a year. We only set it up, but we never did anything with it. And then you have to pay every year to keep that going. So, fuck. You just let it go. So now my publisher just runs it. You know? I don't make shit off of it. Every few months, I make $20 to $40 every 3 months or so, and sometimes not even that. But the fact that it's still selling at all is an achievement all in and of its own. There is no publisher. Why do I think that you're actually... See, this is what they're at. They're really focused on my finances. And Geo wants to tell everyone that I have all this money. Nobody who writes one fucking book gets rich on it. Anybody who's ever been... Geo, in my experience with Geo, has to be one of the most dense people I've ever met in my entire life. And so he wouldn't know what it takes to write a book, let alone publish a book, or like it is worth what it's worth. You know? And so... what it is that they want to focus on fucking me up. That's all they want to do. If they can fuck me up in any way, they break into my house all the time. And I'm just supposed to get over it. They do whatever they want to my dogs, whatever they want. If someone was breaking into your house whenever they fucking wanted and leaving shit for you to find so that you knew that they broke into your house, and there wasn't a fucking thing you could do about it, I bet you wouldn't be happy about it. I bet it would cause a little bit of stress. you know? So telling me to just get over it, they stole a fucking computer and bragged about it, dickhead. See, now he's back in yet another. He just signed out of another account and now he's back onto another account. You know? They broke into my house and stole a Dell laptop and then bragged about it. Then bragged about it. Then bragged about it. Which I just forwarded the emails. I did make a police report with that. I did call 911 for that. Because they bragged about stealing, and I didn't give a shit about the computer. Still don't. It was a broken ass 2005 Dell laptop. I didn't give a shit about it, but the bag it was in, that was a gift. And I never realized how expensive those bags are. But when it comes down to it, they're all in here trying to actually, you know, and now they're in here calling me names. The sad part about the whole situation is that Geo, who will actually wants everyone to actually respect him and actually wants people to oh, you know, they want him to respect him. This dude is the one, if you go click on that link, you can also see what he posted right before he posted, oh, there were 2 explosions. Yes, I know there were 2 explosions. But all he did was he just wanted me to see, and all he did was tip FFF GGG TTT. That's what he typed. You can go see it. I took a screenshot of it. That's who this dude is. And the only reason why he's in here doing the shit that he's doing is because they bragged about murdering my friend on YouTube. They came into town, murdered my friend, and then bragged about it to me. And that's the reason why you are not Jacob. Which is really bizarre, and you can tell that it's government. Because they know an awful lot about, you know. It's funny, out of all of my nieces and nephews, Jacob was the one who actually turned out the best, and he was Steven's kid. Fucking amazing. Fucking amazing. It's weird how that works that way. Because Steven was the worst of us, and now Jacob is the best of them. Interesting how it works that way. But this is how they focus. This is what they do. This is what they do. You know? And so, yes, that would be it. At D. Shurter. This child trafficking bullshit needs to be investigated. If it was just me who has come out and actually called these people out, that would be one thing. But there's a whole long list of people who have called these people out. And a lot of people on that list are dead, supposedly by suicide. And that in and of itself is suspect. And so this all needs to be looked at. They went after and shut down Fiona just like they shut down Isaac Happy, just like they shut down me. Because there was the 3 of us for a while that were working together. Then I backed out of it because Fiona and Isaac were busy dealing with Craig Sawyer, Gabe Hoffman, and that homeless camp down on the border of Arizona that had the child-sized shackles bolted to the trees. And they were trying to get that investigated, and I didn't know anything about it, and I have my plate full. And so then Isaac ends up dead, and Fiona is just, she doesn't want to be part of any of this anymore. She's old, she doesn't feel well, and they've changed the laws in Australia to where she could get in trouble for doing what she did, publishing, doing that documentary and all of that. She can get in trouble now. And so, and she doesn't want to get in trouble because she's old and she's sick. She doesn't want to be involved. She's done enough. Craig Sawyer Craig Sawyer and Russ Dizdar were the ones who actually went all over national media when that homeless camp came out with the shackles bolted to the trees. And Craig Sawyer and Russ Dizdar were running around saying how they were going to expose all of this child trafficking. But at the same time, Craig Sawyer was telling everybody that they wanted people to send them in checks. They didn't have any online stuff. They wanted people to send them in checks. And I, being involved in the survivor community, told people, don't do that. If you send them a check, they'll have your address, your name, your signature, your bank account number, and if you lick the envelope, your DNA. And Craig Sawyer and I got into a huge argument about it, where he said he was going to sue me. And then he stopped because people were like, wait a minute, David's actually like a real survivor. And you're trying to draw in all this money for survivors, which they did. They brought in, because they were all over national news and everybody cared about child trafficking, they drew in all this money. People were sending them in money, lift hand over foot, which from what I understand, Craig Sawyer used on NASCAR. Russ Dizdar's dead. But that's what ends up happening. You know? You go after all the... they throw you these people that are supposed to be your fucking saviors. They never do. They get all the money. Then they just go off and it's all fun and games. And nobody holds them. Me, I'm fucking starving. And I'm not kidding. I don't have any money at all. And they know that, and they're focused on that. They're very focused on the fact that they want to keep me poor. They want to keep me isolated. The very fucking thing they did, the same thing they did to Isaac Happy at the end. Same thing they did to Tracy Twyman. Same thing they did with Lori King. Same thing they did with Max Spears. There's a long list. These are just people I know. And I only know the people I know. But there's so many more people. You know? And so when it comes down to it, oh my, they're just screwed. You know? They're very focused on my finances. You know? But my faith keeps me going. If I have to deal with less, then I deal with less. You know? I obviously don't have all this money. I would pay my tax bill if I had all this money. I don't. They know that. They want to keep it, you know? I don't brag about anything. I'd say thank you. You know? Gabe did make a movie, An Open Secret. And then go type in about what the survivors that were involved with that did with Gabe. They went after Gabe because they said that it was all bullshit. It was all fucking bullshit. The very people that he was supposedly helping came out and said that he had betrayed them. And then he sued them to shut him up. Or went and threatened. The same shit he did to me. Same shit he does to me. You know? But when it comes down to it, I just think that all the shit needs to be looked at. I think that there's enough people who have called all these people out. I'm not the first. I'm far from the only. But they do the same fucking thing to every... And what they do is... And the whole army of them focus on each individual person who's trying to come forward. You know? It's called Google. An Open Secret. Documentary. Victims. Survivors. Keywords. If you don't want to use Google, there's all kinds of other search engines. It's not like it's not out there. All of that shit just comes out. It's not like it didn't hit the news, especially entertainment news. You know, that documentary. But They can go, well, dude, I can't fucking help you. You know? When I Googled it, I found plenty of shit. The people that actually post on X have found shit. There's shit out there. You know? Coming in here, if you're conspiracy archives, the whole thing about it is you should know most of the shit that I'm in here. But what you're doing is just arguing me down with everything. You're not offering anything of substance. You're not offering anything of substance. You're just tearing down what I'm saying. And that's how this game works. That's why they come in here. They don't offer anything and they're always anonymous. You know, they're always fucking anonymous. And they want everyone to actually, because of whatever name they have or whatever they want everyone to respect them. Oh, this anonymous people that I don't even know who they are must know, must be in the know. But why you would tell yourself that? And if they're in the know, considering what they do, maybe it's not bad. I like my hair. That's all I'm going to say today. There were 2 explosions to that gas station. And it took someone powerful to get them to lie about it on the official report. Because the official report and what actually happened that day, they can't both be true. That's all I'm saying. What was reported by KETV that day after it happened is in direct conflict to the official report of what they said. And the whole reason why I believe that Erling, Iowa gas station explosion was a domestic terrorism attack. Doug Mesner, aka Lucian Greaves, founder of the Satanic Temple, who has been after me and on top of me for years, was going on and on and on. Neil Gross has all of the emails. Don't tell me that the Shelby County, Iowa Sheriff got rid of all the emails. There's no way he got rid of those emails. Can't be that easy. Had all of them. The deputy that he had going after me with the dogs ended up committing suicide a week and a half before. What were they trying to get Donovan to do to me? That he chose to kill himself rather than do what they were asking him to do. You know, that's just fucked up. That's just fucked up. The dude that was across the street. And Neil knows all of this. And you want to know what? The fact that none of this has come out shows that there's an issue here. There's an issue. And that report doesn't match the facts of what happened. So that in and of itself is insurance fraud. It was someone very connected and very important that got them to do this. You know? And what was involved? What was the situation that kind of was around Erling, Iowa gas station? I lived right across the street. And I was trying to expose a child trafficking operation. Just like Isaac Cappy was. We were working together for a while. Isaac Cappy ends up dead. 11 months later, the gas station explodes. And it was a bomb. That's what caused the first explosion. There were 2 explosions, 9.5 minutes apart. Flat out. And they can say whatever the fuck they want. People can rationalize it, justify it, move it around however they want to make it okay in their heads. But the fact remains, the official report for Erling, Iowa gas station and the actual what happened was 2 explosions, 9.5 minutes apart. This whole official report that it filled with gas and a spark ignited and it leveled the place and there was 1 explosion does not fit the facts of what actually happened. You know? There were 2 explosions. Sarah Ann, you come in here all the time, but I also realize you're on Sewer Town all the time. You're on Sewer Town. You're connected with them. Yes, I know. So again, the group that needs to actually be looked at is all in here saying, oh, don't look at us for child trafficking. You know? The ignition that leveled the place was the bomb that exploded the first time. You know, you've been on Sewer Town. People have sent me screenshots of you being on there. Being on there with Daniel Dowd and Geo Farnsworth and all that group, you are just up their ass. As far as I'm concerned, you're another Sherilyn. You're another Glenna. That's what you are. You're on here actually arguing about stuff that you don't have a fucking clue about. You know? And why? Because you want to discredit me so nobody at all looks into this child trafficking operation. That's what it is. They want to make it all about me. Nothing is about them. I know you know everything, or at least you think, you know? And here you are trying to help them. With that said, you know, their child trafficking operation needs to be looked at. It needs to be looked at. I'm not the first person who has actually said this. I'm not the only person who has said this. And this is the shit they do every time. This is the shit they do. This idiot has been planning and actually doing stuff. This Sarah Ann idiot has been doing shit that works with Daniel Dowd. I've presented a lot of evidence. The KETV news report and the official documentation of that fucking Early, Iowa gas station explosion, that's evidence. You know? That's evidence. It's easy to look at. It's easy to see. That's the reason why they're saying, what evidence? What evidence? But that's the reason why I say someone with authority has to look into this. Because everything that I bring to the table, this is what they're going to do. This just what this idiot is doing. Just what this idiot is doing. They'll discredit every single thing I do and say. That's the reason why I don't even bother. That's the reason why I don't even bother. And why are they in here doing this? Because they don't want the child trafficking operation investigated. I don't listen to fucking liars, and I don't listen to people who defend and protect child traffickers. Right, Sarah Ann. You know? Oh, I'm wrong before. I've been wrong. But you're a liar. You're a liar actually trying to protect child traffickers. Flat out. And they inundate this, you know, this is all them. No, that happened when I was 13. And does not make the whole same thing, but that is an argument of the child traffickers. Doug Mesner, you know, happened when I was 13. And I've been quite clear about that. You want to know why? Because I fucking made a video. They condensed it down to 45 seconds. It was a 15-second thing. You know, you go right ahead, Sarah Ann. You go right ahead. The cops that were there didn't take me to jail. No one went to the hospital. It wasn't that big a deal. And I was 13. This happened, and I'm now 58. You know? Exactly. Where is the whole video? The whole thing about it is that it wasn't a 45-second video. It wasn't. This Sarah Ann also needs to be investigated. Needs to be investigated. Completely involved. Needs to be investigated. Goes on with all of their shit is just another one of them. I no longer have the video. It was done when I was now going to years and years and years and years ago. But anybody who watches that 45-second video can see that there was stuff that was said before that, and there's stuff that's being said afterwards. Obviously you do care, Sarah. Obviously you do care, because here you are, defending and protecting fucking child killers. You know, that's what it is. And you go on and plot with them on other social media things. Yeah, I never denied it. I don't do what you guys do. You guys fucking hurt kids and deny it. Blame it off everybody else. I don't deny my crimes. I've been quite open about it. But it happened when I was 13. I'm 58. I get really tired of motherfuckers like this bitch telling me how I should feel bad about something that happened when I was 13 as a child, having a psychotic break because they feel that I should be, you know, I should have spent the whole rest of my adult life just bleeding myself dry. That's what they want. But the reason why they're focused on what happened when I was 13 is because there's nothing else. They have nothing else that they can find. Not a fucking thing. So they have to focus on what happened when I was 13. Because there's nothing else there. Otherwise, they'd be using it. You think this bitch, if she had something that I did as an adult, wouldn't be running with it right now? And she says, oh, I'm out of my mind, but that's because I'm actually focused on her and dealing with her stupid bullshit. You know? I was being tortured. Fuck. They made me light that dude when I was 10, on fire when I was 10. The fact that it happened when I was 13, and again, you know, again, this is all their bullshit. This is all their bullshit. And they think because they can come in here anonymously with no picture, a name that's not real, and if it is, it's not a real name. You know her name is not Sarah Ann, you know? And again, because they don't want their child trafficking operation looked into. Flat out. They don't like, you know, I was 10 fucking years old. I don't have that information. You know? But again, they'll focus. She's trying to run with what happened when I was 13 because there's nothing that they can find as an adult. Fuck, Sherilyn was actually involved. What did they glean from Sherilyn? She was supposed to be my friend, all of this stuff, you know? You know what does exist, Sarah Ann? The fact that actually Daniel Dowd and Geo Farnsworth bragged about murdering fucking Owen on YouTube. That does exist. That does exist. This whole Famalam thing that goes on, this whole Famalam thing that Isaac Cappy was involved with, that you're involved with, the whole Dead Isaac Cappy Club is involved with, that exists. You know? That exists. I put her on a timeout because otherwise, like I said, this is how the arguments go. This is why I won't argue with them, because they're circular arguments. They just continuously, it's just a continuous. They accuse, I say no. They accuse, I say no. It goes nowhere. And there's no accountability to anything. There's no accountability. They have no account because they're anonymous. Nobody fucking knows who they even are. But they come in as an army. How many of them have come in today? Just alone. In the hour that I've been on. Just in an hour. How many have come on? And again, their whole focus is to make everybody discredit me so that nobody looks at this child trafficking operation, which needs to be looked at. It needs to be looked at. Michael Aquino might be dead, but his operation that he set up, his associates are not. And this is a multi-gazillion dollar fucking business. You know, this child trafficking. And it's off the fucking charts now. You have people in masks with no identification just taking fucking people off the streets and throwing them in unmarked vans, and nobody knows what's happening to them. Same shit the KGB used to do. Same shit Hitler used to do in Germany. And it's happening right now. It's happening right now. You know? What, you think all those people, how the fuck you know if they're not being trafficked? How do you know? Nobody knows where they even are. Nobody even knows they even exist. Nobody knows. And so what people do know is that it's people who have masks on, who have no badges, has no identification whatsoever, throwing them in unmarked vans. They're just fucking abducting people off the fucking streets. You know? It's not hard to see. It's not rocket science. It's not rocket science. It's pretty right in your face. But all of this child trafficking bullshit, again, Michael Aquino and his associates. Who are his associates? I think Gabe Hoffman is right up there with Michael Aquino. I think Thomas Schoenberger is below Gabe Hoffman. Below Gabe Hoffman, I think it's Doug Mesner, a.k.a. Lucian Greaves, founder of the Satanic Temple and his whole Satanic Temple after-school daycare bullshit that's focusing on the fucking kids, along with Sewertown, who've all been in here today. You know? DeFango, Corey Daniel, the Sicilian witch, his wife, you know, the last person to have talked, you know. No, I don't not talk about it because I'm a coward. It was because this is how it goes. It's a constant throwing shit at the wall, constant attack. Nothing gets done. Nothing gets said. They just deny everything and accuse me of everything. And so what? I'm going to spend, what, a whole time being accused of shit, but the child trafficking shit doesn't even get talked about. Not even. But you want to know what? If this is really John Holizak, I have an email from you from 2017 that I just took screenshots of. But thank you for actually posting this, because if it's not Doug Mesner loves to use the name John. They love to use the name John. You know? You're never that John. You're never that John. But I think that you're Doug. Oh, wait a minute, the Superman thing. You're Doug Mesner. You're Doug Mesner. AKA Johnny Dub, AKA John Kilrush. You know, they all come in here anonymously, and then when they say, well, you don't know who I am, and then it becomes this big game of, well, you don't know who I am, but they're anonymous with anonymous pictures. Making accusations anonymously. That's how it works. That's how it works. And then they say, oh, well, you're not, because you won't argue everything that we're accusing you of. Now you're a coward, because you won't spend the entire time arguing about things that happened when you were 13. You should feel really bad. You're 58 years old. That happened when you were 13. You know, you should beat yourself publicly every day for having a psychotic break when I was 13. Because they have nothing since I was an adult. All of the shit that they gleaned from Sherilyn. And what did they get? Not a fucking thing, because there's nothing to get. Nothing to get. You know? All of this child trafficking shit needs to be investigated. And they're all in here as a group. Sewertown, Thomas Schoenberger and his group, Doug Mesner and the Satanic Temple. Everyone knows that the Satanic Temple is around. Fucking idiot. Whoever keeps sending me the threat saying, oh, the Satanic Temple is around. Everyone knew that 2 Christmases ago. When they showed up did that stupid statue at the Capitol for the nativity bullshit. And then some dude from Missouri came up and beheaded it. Everyone knows that the Satanic Temple is in Iowa. You know? It's not a secret. I am champion for the people who don't have a voice. It started off all those fucking murdered little boys. That's how this all started off for me. Is to get justice for them. And this group can say whatever the fuck they want, but when it comes down to it, it's all this child trafficking bullshit. And personally, me, knowing what I know about the dude, having dealt with the dude as I have, there's no fucking way Michael Aquino killed himself. So if they're saying that he's dead because he killed himself, it's bullshit. It's bullshit. It's a fake fucking story. Michael Aquino, who's involved with this. Michael Aquino, who Isaac Cappy was calling and harassing with 4 of his phone numbers on the phone. Michael Aquino. The one that Max Spears was trying to expose. That same Michael Aquino. Michael Aquino, my handler as a child that I have gone on and on and on about for decades. That same Michael Aquino, who's involved with all of this child trafficking bullshit. This Nazi, occult, child trafficking bullshit. And that's what it is, and it needs to be investigated, and these motherfuckers can come in anonymously all they fucking want, but there is too much shit. People can see it. You can see it. To not see it means that you have to turn away. Of course I know the Johnny Gosch situation. My dad said he was involved with the Johnny Gosch situation. My dad called Noreen Gosch and told her he was involved with the Johnny Gosch situation. I know all about Johnny Gosch. All about Johnny Gosch. The 3 brothers. You know? Aquasino brothers, that's who they were. Noreen Gosh has enough information to expose everything. Everything about her son, and she's never done it. Not once. Not once. Best friends with Ted Gunderson, who was talking to Michael Aquino every day because they were friends. Every day. What's sad is that everything got focused. The Johnny Gosh situation, everyone who talks about Franklin, the shit that was going on in Omaha, it always goes to Johnny Gosh. Interesting how with child trafficking bullshit that was going on that included Boys Town and the Old Market and all of the shit that was going on at Hummel Park and all the shit that was going on at Offutt Air Force Base, all of that shit that was going on in Omaha, anything that gets talked about with Franklin always gets directed to Johnny Gosh, who was one of 3 boys that got abducted in West Des Moines. In a completely different city, in a completely different state. Funny how it all shifts that way. And yet, if it had really been about the child trafficking and the shit that was going down in the Old Market, you know, no, I'm just not going to sit in here and argue. And I don't believe that you're actually in here with a different fucking account. That's another anonymous account saying, I'll give you my real name. But you're in here with an anonymous account with a picture of Superman. You know? Ted Gunderson was a bad dude. He was a bad dude. He and Michael Aquino went on national news and made all of this go away. In the late 80s, early 90s, they went on all of the talk show bullshit, you know. Anyway, that's what I wanted to talk about. There were 2 explosions. The official story, someone got them to lie about it and said someone's connected. Had to have been government. It had to have been government, because the official story for the Erling, Iowa gas station explosion doesn't match the facts of the matter. You know? Doesn't match the facts of the matter. And so, okay. I want to quit. I'm done with this. This live has been exhausting because they come in here and actually throw accusations, and people wonder why I'm not going to debate them, because this is what the whole debate would be. Them constantly, he's dead. The minute Johnny Gosh was a national story, they killed him. They weren't going to jeopardize this huge operation, this gazillion-dollar money-making operation, over one kid. You know? He's gone. You know? The minute he became the milkman kid, they got rid of him. You know? Why would they jeopardize everything over one kid? It doesn't even make any sense. Doesn't make any sense. You know? There was a kid that was abducted in the Old Market. If it was really about child trafficking, John DeCamp being involved with all of that, it would have been the kid that got abducted in Council Bluffs that lived in, or he got abducted in the Old Market, but he lived in Council Bluffs. And I forget his name right now, just because it's hard to keep up with all the names, but he was an abducted kid. His parents hired a private investigator, and the private investigator found the kid with his abductor in Oregon. But the Omaha police had been telling everybody that he was a runaway. You know, I haven't heard of John Todd. But all of this is about child trafficking. It's all about child trafficking. It all needs to be fucking exposed. These motherfuckers need to, and this Famalam thing, I think that Sherilyn is involved with the Shamalam thing. This Famalam thing, it's Famalam. It's a program that Isaac Cappy, I believe it's one of the reasons why they murdered Isaac Cappy. It's being used for child trafficking. That's what Gio in here with all of his stupid shit is trying to hide. Because they're all involved with it. that Famalam thing needs to be looked at. And I know it's about child trafficking. That's the whole reason why Sherilyn was trying to convince me not to talk about child trafficking anymore. That was one of the things that clued in to me. She only wanted me to talk about the word. Stop mentioning them. Stop talking about them. You're just giving them energy. Don't give them any more energy. Don't talk about any of this child trafficking shit. It was just a constant barrage of how that was supposed to work. And I'm going to talk about what the fuck I want, and I'm definitely going to expose this group of fucking child killers. These child traffickers need to be exposed, and they need to be stopped. Flat the fuck out. And they're obviously well-connected, because it's taken someone well-connected to get them to lie about that Early, Iowa gas station explosion. But the shit that they put on that official report that went to insurance companies, that's fraud, because it's not the truth. And it's easy to prove that it's not the truth by Shelby County, Iowa Sheriff New York. And this town is only a little over 4,000 people. Do you think if Sheriff Gross had not gone to those people and said, no, there were 2 explosions, there weren't one. There was not one, there were 2 explosions, and he actually would have said what was going on, they wouldn't have listened to the sheriff in town? Really? Really? He has so little authority that he wouldn't have any of that? Hey, thanks, guy. You know? Oh, yeah, we can pray. Because then I'm going to get off here. Heaven, I come to you. I know that I realize that when I say these prayers, so let me make this prayer in general for all of us. Please allow us to have our eyes open and our ears to hear. And to let us actually have the power of discernment. To actually take in all sides. I'm not saying that I have to be perfect and that I'm the one who actually knows everything. I'm just saying that it needs to be exposed. It needs to be investigated. It needs to be looked at by someone other than me. And I am just praying that people will have their eyes open and their ears open and at least one brain cell so that they can start putting the pieces together. Because the group that I am facing now, others have faced this exact same group in the past who have done the exact same thing to those people as they're doing to me. It's not new. It's not a new game. It's old. And so, and it ends up invalidating and quieting down survivors. And when that happens, evil is actually able to grow and to prosper. And I know it's probably not appropriate to say in this thing, and I'm going to probably have to deal with it when I meet my maker, but fuck these people. Fucking, oh my God, just fuck them. We're grateful that you sent your son, our brother, down, Jesus Christ. And not one of us measure up to who he was. But we're glad to have the example to at least try to emulate. And we're grateful that he sent us the word, even though right now in this day and age, sometimes it's hard to fill your heart with love. And so, but fill us with grace as much as you can. And help us to take a stand, rise and take a stand. And we say these things lovingly in your son, our brother's name, Jesus Christ. Amen. Okay, that's the prayer. And I'm going to end it with that because I think it's good to end it with prayer. Thank you for reminding me of prayer. I like to say prayers. And nobody wants to be where I'm at. Nobody wants to do what I'm doing and have to deal with the motherfuckers that I've had to deal with. Nobody wants to deal with it. It's not fun. It's not pleasant. It sucks. It's exhausting. It's tiring. It's more than a full-time job because it's every day, all the time. And people don't understand. And I'm not trying to be a ball baby about it because I chose to be here. I chose to do what I do. I made this choice. No one made it for me. I'm an adult. I'm responsible for my own choices. If I had to make it again, I still would. make the same choice that I have in the past, that I'm on right now. But it's not easy. It's not easy. It's not easy being under attack. The fact that they break into my house all the fucking time, anytime they want, and then let me know about it so that it just keeps me on edge. At the same time, they were making videos of my house blowing up and burning down, or me being lynched, or saying that I was going to be murdered, and all of the other weird ass shit that they have done as a group to me that would make everybody off balance, let alone someone who suffers from post-traumatic stress disorder. Nobody wants to be here. It's not fun. But you want to know what? We all have our crosses to fucking bear. That's just it. And I'm going to continue exposing this shit. It needs to be looked at by someone with more authority than me. Someone that they can't just throw shit at and discredit. Children deserve more. Children deserve more. Flat the fuck out. They deserve more. You know? And so the only reason I'm here is because of heaven and because of God in so many ways. The only reason I'm still upright and breathing is because of heaven. Because let me tell you, they've tried. They've tried to take me out more than once. It hasn't just been that gas station. There's been other things, probably more than even what I know about. However, has all this been worth it? Well, considering that it's either this or sit on my ass and be okay with a bunch of kids getting hurt. And I'm not all for that. Just never have been, never will be. And don't respect those who do. So, with that said, I'm out of here. Thanks, guys.